Hello Snack Pack, welcome back to Travel Snacks. Yes, it's true, he's gone. He's really gone. My beloved Snoopy the Snackmobile has moved on to new adventures. I listed the van for sale on my last video, and within 4 days, Snoopy has been sold and moved on to a new family. I'm currently at the Cedar Ridge Preserve in Texas, and this is my second time here, and it's so pretty. It's my second weekend coming because there's a few hiking trails and it's really pretty. All right, we're just going up the stairs. Need to catch my breath. And today, I don't really know how I feel, but I think I know how I feel. But for the longest time, I've been telling the story that I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna be so sad. I was so sad when I sold my Kia Optima that I've repeated that so many times. Every time I tell the story about I'm gonna sell my van, I've come to that decision. And now today, it's just been a few days since I sold the van, and I teared up a little bit, but I haven't cried. And I'm like, am I in the beginning stages of grief? Like I haven't accepted it or I'm in denial? But then part of me started thinking that there was a few things that's happened since making the decision to sell my van. In the beginning, it was like a slow decision, slow burn, because at first I was like, I'm never selling this van. I'm never gonna do it. And then over time, just seeing the van sitting there, I was like, I'm not using this van. Like I should get out and start using this van. So I, tried to drive more and stuff. Sorry, this is a very busy trail, especially on a weekend, and I don't really mind people walking by, but the lady sat down next to me and started breastfeeding, and I was like, I'm gonna let you have a little privacy with your baby. So anyways, I had been driving my van a little bit more, but the more I was driving it, I was like, I'm putting more wear and tear on this thing. And I think at a certain point, I just started praying, God, help me to detach emotionally from this van, because when you live in a vehicle and you name the vehicle and you have memories with that vehicle takes you to places all around. It's like it kind of becomes part of you. And I talked to my dad, who, thank you so much for all the comments, on my last video about how much work my dad and I put in to building that van. And you guys mentioned how much you noticed that, and how he cut off his thumb and stapled his hand, and it was a journey to build that van. But I talked to my dad and just asked how he felt, and he was like, sell it. We have our memories. And the van's only going to get older. So if you're legitimately done with it, then I don't see a reason why someone else shouldn't enjoy the van. And his, not nonchalance, but his peace about getting rid of it helped me to start being at peace with it as well. Now, of course, he wasn't the one living in it, fixing things, along the way, sleeping in it night after night. But building that van was a joint effort, mostly my dad, because let's keep it real, I helped a lot, but my dad was the one who knew how to do most of the things on there. But I started praying, and I just started asking God to help me to detach. Help me to think about the person that's gonna get it next. And so over the last several months, every time I would go somewhere in the van, drive the van, it just loved the way the van built was specific for me. But I started thinking, I would love to just get into a vehicle and just go anywhere without thinking about gas mileage and thinking about something breaking on the van and something, thinking about the solar panels and stuff. Because last year, and actually a few times now, it snowed. And when it snows, those solar panels get covered with snow and ice. And then there's days and days of cloudiness, and the battery drains, and you're worried if it's gonna affect the battery. And then, then you got to like make sure that the battery gets topped up again, and it's like you're constantly thinking about something that you're not really using for the purpose of it being used. I just started to feel a sense of pulling away of the van. Oh my gosh, look at this. I gotta take a pause. This is gonna be a extraneous one. You know, I always keep it real with you guys, and I go to therapy a couple times a month, and I started wanting to sell my van months ago, and everyone was like, oh, did you put your van up for sale yet? And I was like, no, I got so much more to do on it. And that's true. There was lots of stuff I needed to like get sorted out inside of the van. But then my therapist was like, is it really that, or are you holding on because you're afraid of what it's going to feel like when you let go? And I was like, no, I don't think that's it. And then I left, and I was like delaying even more, weekend after weekend. I'm like, I'm gonna do it on the weekend, and then next weekend would come, and then I wouldn't do it. I wasn't listing it for sale. And so when I went back to therapy, she's like, oh, did you list your van? And I was like, no. And it just hit me like I was preconceiving, I think that's the word, thinking of how it's gonna feel so sad and so bad. And you know, when I sold my Kia Optima, the one I lived in, I cried for a week. I think because living in a car felt so much more raw to me, and I was just going through a different time in my life. My kids had just flown the nest, you know, and it was very hard to live in a car. It was challenging, and it was fun, and it was freeing, and then the pandemic took that away, so it wasn't really my choice. But it was my choice to sell it, and I felt terrible about it. But the sale of my Kia Optima was the money I used to renovate the van, to build the van. And so it was worth it. But the van was not ready for quite a while after that. So it didn't feel the same because it was during the pandemic. I was building the van. I didn't have another vehicle at that point. And so it just felt sad. It felt like, almost like, I don't want to be dramatic, like no hope, or like, I don't know. And the van was hard to build. It was not easy. You hear that? What the heck? I don't know what that is. So anyways, I was thinking that if I was that sad about my car, which I only lived in for, I don't know, 4 to 6 months or something like that, I was like, oh, surely I'm going to be overwhelmed with grief about selling Snoopy, especially because my dad and I built it together. But I wasn't, and I am not. And I think that's God. It's just simply God. And I don't know. I know some of you don't have God in your life, and by choice, and a lot of you do. And I'm telling you, if you ask, especially if you cry out and you just say, I need you, I need help, I need you to help me to get through this in a easy, simple way. Like, it doesn't have to be hard. You know, just put your requests out there. And I did. And it's like the scripture, be anxious for nothing, and basically, you know, the peace of God will like transcend you. Like, you'll just feel at peace. And I do. It's like the scripture is true. But I had to truly just let it, like, ask and then let it go, and then not decide ahead of time how I'm going to feel. Like, just feel how I feel in the moment. And it's like, how many times does that happen with us? Like, think of one of the hardest decisions you're facing in your life right now. And you've kind of been stuck with a decision. It's like, maybe write down what you're stuck, what's making you stuck. Is it like you truly don't know what to do? Because I think a lot of times we do know what to do. We just don't want to do it because it's going to be hard and exhausting. And people will have opinions. And it might hurt somebody, or it might hurt you. Or it's just something you don't want to do. But like, write down why you're having a hard time with a decision. And then ask God to help you through it. And then one, ask God to help you get through it, help you detach yourself from the decision, let go of the outcome. And secondly, stop talking about what you think is going to happen, because we actually don't know what's going to happen. And even if it does happen, even if I would have been overwhelmed with grief, guess what? I'm going to get over it. Like, I got over it with the Kia Optima. Like, I still think about that car and I'm like, oh, that was a great car. But I thought that about Snoopy too. And I think about that about my new car. And I'll build memories with this new vehicle as well. And that feels exciting to me. It's one thing when you consistently live in your van day after day, or, you know, you take frequent trips and you keep up on all the maintenance, and, you know, you're constantly checking the battery levels and making sure that you're using it, you know. It's not just sitting there. Then the van kind of has a life of its own and you're working in unison together. But when you're not living in it, things are just kind of sitting, and that stagnation isn't really good for a van. Another thing that happened is that I was gonna wait till I sold my van to use that money to buy my new car, but I just decided to go ahead and take some money out of my savings to buy the new car. So I think that by me already having a new car, it was easier for me to kind of edge out the van a little bit mentally, because I was like, okay, like I can just drive this car around, I can go do more things, I can go meet friends, I can go to activities, and I don't have to, you know, drive the van around spending so much in gas and, you know, not being able to park everywhere. And that helped a lot. It's like the saying when you're going through a breakup, somebody will say, to get over somebody, you need to get under somebody else, which is terrible advice, but it's kind of that mentality of you kind of have to have something to look forward to, something new to kind of move you forward. And I think that's what my new car did for me. So that helped a lot. And then I started changing my mentality to think about the new person that's going to receive Snoopy. Praying that they would take good care of him and that they would kind of, I'd be able to pass the torch over to them and them enjoy their best life as a new van life person, or even somebody that is going to start their new journey. Where I had my journey, I had years of living in my van full time, and I wanted somebody to be able to take the good that me and my dad put into the van and keep it going. And I'm confident that I found that person, and God led that person to be the person that bought my van. So I had, from the minute I posted my video of selling the van, I had so much interest, like more than I thought. I thought that it was going to take months to sell my van, and I had so much interest, people wanting to come from other states, people that had been following my story, the van story, since when I lived in my car. And I was really overwhelmed, overwhelmed, but also overwhelmed in a good way, and just a really loving, peaceful way that God showed me. Because I forgot to say is that I also prayed for it to be easy for me to sell this van, because I was stressing out about it. There's a lot that's involved in selling a van that you built. I wanted to make sure that I cleaned everything out of it, but also make sure it was clean, make sure that I tested everything to make sure it worked. If things didn't work, I wanted to note that. I wanted to like list out the little quirks and make sure that the new person understood like different things about it. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot, and I want to make sure that I represent the van in the best way I can for the new person. But I really wanted the new person to be set up for success. So to give y'all a little bit of comfort, the new owner is a snack packer. She's great. We met in the parking lot of a Dollar Tree, you know, did the deal, and it was great. Like, she was so happy. I was so happy. Like, it felt like the right match for the right person. And everything was like done. And then I was like, here's the keys. Like, I don't know, this feels weird to be handing over my baby. And I was like, you know, I started to like get ready to go, and I was like, do you mind if I like go into the van one last time and just say a prayer? And she was like, of course, no, like, yeah, definitely. Take your time, take your time. So I went in there and I just said a prayer of thanks to God for giving me years of being able to be in this van, that Snoopy carried me through on many days of ups and downs, that Snoopy was so loved by the snack pack and just part of my journey for so long. And I just wanted to say thanks to God and just kind of like touch the van and just be like, thank you, you did your job, and now you're going to be a blessing to somebody else. And it was sad in that moment. I think that's the only time like I really kind of teared up a little bit. But then I felt like a closure and a little peace, and that was it. I had to get a ride home because we met up to sell the van in a different city. And I remember taking that video and just feeling like, man, this feels weird. And as I was leaving, I was thinking, man, I don't feel the way I thought I was gonna feel. I'm not super emotional. I'm not super sad. I just kind of feel a little like, oh, like that feeling of like a bittersweet, just like I'm happy for the new owner, but I'm also like happy to move on to the next chapter of my life. And it's kind of like a weird feeling. I started thinking how many times I tell myself stories of pre-making, pre-delivering, pre-something my feelings of how I think I'm gonna feel. And it's like when you do that, it's almost like you want to make yourself, like I almost was like, I should be crying right now. And I started thinking, why? Why? Because I did in the past? Because that's what I said I was gonna do? Hold on, there's some stairs down here. And I was like, what if I was just joyful about this? Like, what if I just changed that thought and just release it and just be like, this is great. And the older I get, especially now that I've hit my 50s, I'm starting to think about all the times where I was emotional, where I was just going off of feelings and not like just being in the moment. Like, yeah, it feels a little bit like, oh, that's sad, but it also feels like this is awesome. Like, I have so many more adventures ahead. I have so many more things that I'm gonna do. It may not include Snoopy, but it includes Snoopy Jr., and it includes friends, and it includes Snack Pack, and it includes so many more things. And even in regards to relationships, you know, it's like, I wonder how many times we think, oh, I don't want to break up, or I don't want to do this, or even financial decisions, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, because this is going to happen, or this is how I'm going to feel, or it's going to be too painful, or I'm going to break down to the point of I can't come back from it. And what if you didn't? What if you were just like, this is the best thing for me in this moment of my life. This is the best thing for me moving forward, and it's going to be okay. And I know the unknown is scary, and I think that's why. Where did I get to? This is a weird, wrong way. Okay. So, I didn't expect to feel this way. And again, we're only a few days out from this. So, next week I might be a blubbering fool, and that's okay. It'll be in the moment, and I'll be feeling what I'm feeling. But now when I go out to my parking lot where I live and I don't see the van, it's like I'm starting to not even like look for the van. And I just see my new Snoopy Jr. And I started thinking, like, I'm getting ready to go fold the seats down and see if I could lay in there and see if it's even a situation that I could maybe go on some little road trips and sleep in the back of the Sportage. And it just feels good. And, you know, I'm still a nomad at heart. But there's so many more things that I want to do in my life. And I'm about to do it. And I hope that you let yourself let go of expectations that you have for yourself as well. And just know that there's so many more things ahead than in the past. And, you know, in the olden days, people just sat with each other and they experienced things together, and they had the memories in their mind. Now, I have tons of videos and pictures with Snoopy, so I have a bunch to go off of if I ever wanted to, you know, go strolling down memory lane. But even in my mind, I can just think of so many times of, like, you know, good times, bad times, frustrating times, tears of joy, tears of sadness, frustration, being in the van. And they're never gonna go away. I have it in my mind, and I want to stay like clear-minded about that. So I say all that to say, give yourself grace, allow yourself to be in the moment, and until next time, bye for now.
detach.